degrees, a little bit more, gusting to about 30 miles per hour. Then the clouds start to build in, and we'll see scattered to numerous showers and thunderstorms overnight tonight. A few of those may be on the strong to severe side, mainly worried about that hail and gusty winds. With your Cake First Alert forecast, I'm meteorologist Brooklyn Ray.
KGSO Weather Center update, presented by Derby Mattress. No dancing animals, no gimmicks. Your locally owned hometown mattress store at 105 South Baltimore in Derby.
At 7:02, it's currently 66 degrees.
Broadcasting live from the KGSO studios in West Wichita.
I feel more informed when I listen.
This is The Game Plan on Wichita's sports station, KGSO.
The Game Plan is on the air, KGSO.
Here we go. It's hour number 2 of The Game Plan right here on Wichita's sports station, KGSO, 1410 AM, 93.9 FM on the digital side, 99.7 HD3. And, of course, always live streaming for you on Facebook and KGSO.com. Appreciate everybody listening to The Game Plan, being a part of the show. You can do that at 522-1410, our Maximum Outdoor Equipment hotlines. Call us this morning. Be a part of this Friday edition. Love hearing from you, as always. A scary moment for the Kansas City Chiefs yesterday. They had to cancel their final practice of the voluntary camp because B.J. Thompson, a second-year defensive end for the Chiefs, was taken to the hospital after suffering a seizure and going into cardiac arrest. I know Felix kind of broke this story on the press box yesterday afternoon. There's really not a lot of details on what happened here. The Chiefs did end up canceling their practice. They plan on wrapping up camp, their offseason workouts today. The 27-year-old was a fifth-round pick out of Stephen F. Austin in last year's draft. The only game he appeared in was the regular season final against the Los Angeles Chargers. He had 2 tackles in that game. But you got a young 27-year-old that is, you know, the elite of elite. Otherwise, he wouldn't be on an NFL team. Maybe he's not a starter. Doesn't matter. Still, obviously, a guy that is an elite athlete because he made an NFL roster, where only about 1.5% of all football players do.
Right.
So you got a young man that's in the prime of his life, in the prime of his conditioning, everything else, and goes into cardiac arrest. Obviously, we saw this with Damar Hamlin a couple of years ago with the Buffalo Bills. We've heard this from a couple of other players. My question is what's going on? Why do we have so many young? We've heard of high school kids that this has happened to, college. Why do we have so much of this happening? Now, look, I'm not going to come on here and put a bunch of trash out there by no means, but if you read things online, there are people that have blamed this on COVID itself, that we still don't know what the long-term lasting effects of COVID is if you've had it. There are some that believe that the COVID vaccine has caused some of this because we still don't know really what the long-term effects of that is going to be. But there's got to be something that's going on. And I'm not going to say that either one of those two things are related. I'm just telling you what you read when you read stuff. There's got to be something going on. Or is it diets, that these athletes are being put on? Is it supplements that these athletes now are encouraged to take, whether they're good for you or bad for you? You didn't hear, and part of it is social media is so immediate now, and you get this news. But, man, I just never remember hearing about so much of this. You had cases even back when I was growing up that you would hear about where, we had I can't remember the name. There was a NBA player, I think, that just collapsed and died of a heart attack in a game, years and years ago. I don't know, Eric. This is concerning to me.
It is, and here's the thing of it is I actually do have a little bit of experience and knowledge in some of what maybe maybe these players are facing and causing these issues. Some of the I've kind of read some of the same things online that you have. Now again, whether it's the COVID shot or the multiple doses or COVID itself, they're still kind of trying to figure that out. But what they're seeing is young, generally healthy males that have had COVID and or the COVID shot are suffering from one of two conditions called myocarditis or pericarditis. Myocarditis is the inflammation of the heart muscle itself. Pericarditis is inflammation of the fluid-filled sacs around the heart.
Which we heard when COVID was at its height, that was something that could happen.
Myocarditis and pericarditis both can be triggered by viral infections.
Yeah.
The reason I'm very familiar with these is I went through a stint as a high schooler where I was in and out of the hospital 3 different times my freshman year for a little over a week apiece, or for a little over a week at a time with pericarditis. With me, though, I mean, I became a human pincushion at times when I was in the hospital as far as getting blood drawn, and they were sending blood tests all over the country trying to figure out what the heck was going on. And my final diagnosis was acute idiopathic reoccurring pericarditis, basically meaning they don't know why it happens and they can't figure out why it keeps coming back. So I had a procedure done where they went in and actually removed basically the bottom piece of the pericardium, the lining surrounding my heart, to where now if it gets inflamed and fluid builds up, it just drains out and my body takes care of it like any other, waste product in your body or whatever. So when these issues aren't treated, what can happen, and I can tell you from experience, especially with pericarditis, when that sac becomes inflamed and fluid starts to build up, it actually fills up kind of like a water balloon.
Right.
And it constricts your heart. Well, if you're not aware of that and you're doing strenuous physical activity and your heart's struggling to pump as it is because it's got extra pressure from all that fluid buildup, that can send you into an irregular heartbeat and or sudden cardiac arrest. So it makes sense if these are being associated with people who have either prior had COVID or COVID shots. And there's one article that I'm looking at right now that said they see it more prevalently in somebody that's had at least the second dose of the shot, that they may have, untreated or undiagnosed either myocarditis or pericarditis. And again, if you're doing strenuous physical activity and don't realize that you have this issue, it can be very serious.
Look, in your case, I'm sure you weren't going to the doctor and being checked out by a physician all the time, like prior to whatever condition that you had there. Like prior to that, it wasn't like you were going and getting regular.
No.
These guys that are athletes, they're constantly being viewed by medical staff.
Yeah.
So you would think, though, if it was like a situation where this was something that was hereditary or whatever it may be, that would show up and it's some kind of a test that has been given prior to you.
But here's the problem with.
I'm not a doctor, so I'm not trying.
Well,
to...
and again, this is where I can kind of actually speak from a place of experience. It was specifically with pericarditis. I can tell you that the summer leading into my freshman year, was visiting my dad in Houston, and I started complaining of chest pains. And I told him, he says, I kept complaining about it. And he says, well, what do you mean by chest pain? I said, man, it just feels like I have really, really bad heartburn. And that's kind of what it felt like. That's the only way I knew how to explain it or even come close to explaining it at the time. And so I'm sitting there taking all kinds of Tums and ibuprofen and Advil and just anything I could do to try to help at least subdue the pain. But it was just a constant pain. And then finally, it got to a point where there was so much inflammation that when I was breathing, it was actually my lungs were rubbing up against the inside of my rib cage, And at that point, it just felt like somebody was stabbing me in the stomach with a knife.
Right.
And that's when finally, like, something's not right, and we got to go. So, I mean, it was probably a 2 or 3 week buildup before I finally went to the doctor and really said, hey, something's not right here. And even then, it took some time for them to figure out what was actually going on.
I know that the NFL is, especially the NFL, is very protective, and you have to be with, some of the laws and stuff that are out there with releasing medical information.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, I do think that, and this is across the board in sports, not just the NFL.
Devin, sponsor shout out. You know what helps with inflammation?
Yeah.
iCryo.
Right. I do think that, though, at some point in time, they've got to start being more transparent, and if not with the public, at least with their athletes on what they're finding. Like, we still have never heard, or at least I haven't, why that happened to DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah.
Like, there's never been that I've seen an explanation from a physician that worked on him or the team or the medical staff of the team of this is what happened.
The problem with that is HIPAA laws.
I get it, but if they do know, and if it is somehow, some way tied back to COVID, whether it's through the vaccine or through just having COVID, I think that's information that they've got to put out there, and they've got to go out and try to figure out what they can do, if anything,
to mitigate it,
to prevent it. Because look, man, a 27-year-old in the prime of his life shouldn't be dropping with a seizure and cardiac arrest. I mean, that just shouldn't happen.
No, I know one of the primary medications for myocarditis or pericarditis is prednisone, which is a anti-inflammatory steroid.
Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. And I think this is a valid conversation, but it's speculative. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So we don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, do you want them, the Chiefs, would we feel better if Chiefs came out and said, hey, man, our doctors have been with him. He has had COVID one time. He's never gotten the shot, but he had COVID. Or, hey, he's never had COVID. He had one shot. He had the Pfizer ST shot. Or, hey, he had COVID 4 times. He took the shot 4 times. I mean, would that kind of ease if they just made an announcement of their COVID history and their shot history?
Here's the deal, Ryan. I don't really care. It's not. They don't have to put it out to the public. I'm thinking of more of if you know that there's something and I'm not saying it does at all. I'm just saying if you know that this is one thing that's tying back.
But wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't you want to know though? Wouldn't
right.
I mean?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be okay if they came out and said, hey, he's never had COVID, but he had one shot, or he had cycle, or whatever. I mean, would you feel better if they made an announcement like that? Because they're going to have to make some announcement once they figure out what in the wild world of sports happened.
They never did with DeMar Hamlin.
Well, but again, I'll say it again, with any any person's medical history, that comes back to HIPAA laws. I mean, again, it's not like they can't readily put that information out there.
I don't want the information. I could care less whether we get the information or not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying as a league, I think they need to, and I think across all sports, not just the NFL, they really need to start investigating why a 27-year-old can drop with cardiac arrest. I mean, this is not normal.
Right.
And so we made some of that transparency progress in the vein of CTE, and let the players know that. And so this is another one you'd like to, see that same kind of transparency, because they knew that we were cooking brains for a long time,
right,
and never said anything.
Yeah,
and so that we've only known about the COVID shot for 4 going on 5 years now, right?
Look, this could be, and again, I don't want people listening to the show because, believe me, during the COVID deal, I got enough hate email from people that were mad because I myself personally didn't take the shot. I don't want people to think this is anything that has to do, I think it's anything that has to do with COVID. I'm just saying that there's something that has happened. This may be a hereditary medical condition that this young man had in his life and nobody caught it. It was never detected. Could very possibly be that. My only point on all this is that there's got to be something. There's got to be some studies done somewhere that these players and these medical staffs for these teams can be informed of, hey, this is our research. This is what we're finding that's been going on. We need to make sure we're taking some precautions here. If there's any to take, I don't even know.
Yeah, no, we don't know, and it could be something totally different. So at this point, it's all just speculate. I'd like to think. I mean, he's thinking about dropping him. I think that's horrible. And a young man's prime of his life, but it could have been cocaine. You know what I mean? And that he got from Travis Kelce. I'm serious. Came back on an airplane from Taylor Swift's Brazilian concert, and it gave the king of Brazil gave her the cocaine brick. Who wouldn't want to try it? He'd never tried cocaine before, and it dropped him like that. That may be the report that comes out.
Might be.
I don't know.
You might be on to something.
It's a great story, though.
Good conversation. I hope we find out something soon. Rock it out.
All right, thanks. Appreciate it. Leave it up to Ryan to come up with a great story.
But think of it from that point of view.
You know what, though? Look, I mean, who knows? It could be a recreational drug. It could be a prescription drug. It could be, like I said, the diets that people are being put on, the whatever it may be, the supplements. Who knows? I just think they need to figure it out. Because 27-year-olds that are playing NFL football shouldn't have cardiac arrest.
Yep.
And, it would be different if it was just one case here or there, because we've heard about that for a long time. But I can tell you, since 2020, since COVID's been around, I've heard about several cases where this has happened, and it's not just at the professional level. It's at the high school level. It's at the college level. It's across all sports. It's normal human beings. I had a friend that almost died because of what the medical staff said, COVID. 2 years after they had it. So there's still so much unknown.
Yeah,
and they got to figure it out. They got to figure it out. Because this is sad, and this is not something you need to have happen. Now, if there's any silver lining in this story, the fact that this happened at the Chiefs training camp, where ever since, especially Damar Hamlin, like the training to deal with it is spot on, was probably a huge blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Nowhere is there going to be medical staff probably closer.
Other than the hospital.
Other than the hospital. I'll guarantee you they've got medical and training staff right there ready at a moment's notice. So.
And, the other thing that you kind of feel bad about, and again, not knowing really the severity of this, but I think we've seen this even with Damar Hamlin. I mean, like, that guy's career is pretty much over. Like, he will probably never – I think he got into a few games last year for a play or two. Most of it was on special teams, might have made an appearance on the defense every now and then, but nothing like, I mean, he was a starter before. Now, I think he was a backup that got moved into the starter role because of an injury. But you hope that doesn't happen for a kid that's just in his second year.
Sure.
Living out his dream.
Yep.
I would think that once you've had cardiac arrest, coming back and playing the highest level of football is probably not the easiest thing in the world to do.
No, heck, playing NFL football is not easy to begin with.
Right.
You got to deal with something like that. And I'm sure there's a lot of things you've got to check off the list before you just get back into a game for sure.
All right, other side of the break, we're going to have a little fun here. I've got 4. I need 5.
Oh, I got my 5. We've
come up with a new list here on the game plan. It's called our top 5 napping sports, which means you're sitting at home, TV's on. What sport makes you take a nap? We'll reveal those next.
This segment of the game plan is brought to you by iCryo Recovery and Wellness. Elevate your lifestyle online at iCryo.com.
The game plan. KGSO.
Cabela's and Steckline Communications presents The Front Men Live on the Uncle Bill's Bail Bonds and the Print Rack stage Saturday, June 15th at the Coleman parking lot at 2nd and St. Francis in downtown Wichita. Tickets are $40 online, but if you stop by one of these sponsor locations, you can get your tickets for only $20. Mr. B's Daylight Donuts in Goddard, Dandale's, Jack Insurance in El Dorado, Yoder Meats, Jewelry Savers, and Derby Mattress in Derby. Get more info at crankhankfm.com.
Test drive a Ferris mower today at Maximum Outdoor Equipment and Service. Ferris zero-turn mowers, equipped with patented suspension technology